Yep, that's me. You're probably not wondering how I got here, but I'm gonna tell you anyways. When I was 3 years old, my parents took me to the US, hoping to provide me a better life. Cut to 20 years later, only being able to work at dead-end jobs for minimum wage for sociopathic managers, never making enough money to pay for rent and pay for groceries, phone bills, car insurance, gas, medical bills, and college tuition, while constantly having to hear how much everyone hates you, while you still get 20% automatically taken out of each one of your paychecks to pay for taxes that you will never benefit from. The only thing the American dream gave me was depression, anxiety, and irrational fear of an impending doom. So I made a decision. Despite hardly speaking any Spanish and knowing that leaving would likely mean that I would never be able to go back. And just 12 days later, I found out that my irrational fear was not so irrational anymore. I already considered myself lucky, but then I also landed my first remote job that not only allowed me to move out of my mom's, but also afford to rent my first apartment, and then get to decorate it from this to this. Then get that nose job I always wanted. Meet so many cool people and experience so many things that I never thought I would do or could do because I could never afford them while living in the US. But after more than 4 years working in front of a computer for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, slowly burning out until I had no energy left over the rest of the day or weekends to do what I actually wanted to do, which only made me burn out faster, and I got to the point where it was affecting my work, so I got a Ritalin prescription, took more vacations, and bought more materialistic things to remind myself how much I needed this job. But in the end, none of that worked. So I quit. Now, what's the plan? Well, a while back, my mom asked me what it was that brings me joy in life. And the first thing that came to mind was when she let me wrap a Christmas present for one of her friends earlier that week. The times I have found myself to be the happiest have been when I have lost myself in this flow state of creating something out of nothing, even if the process ends up being much harder than I thought it would be. I felt it when I came up with concepts and took all these photos. When I'm creating a sewing pattern from scratch to then sewing that same pattern to completion, designing these book covers for just some of my many perpetually unfinished mud fiction, planning and decorating my apartment again, learning to oil paint for the first time, or even just getting to plan this Thanksgiving meal for my family. Unfortunately, I don't have a rich man to indefinitely fund all my creative endeavors and also lets me peg him. At least not yet. So until then, I will be live streaming this midlife crisis of mine on here every day for the next 6 months to keep me accountable, to show up every day, and eliminate any excuse I may have of perfectionism. Now, why 6 months? Well, that's as much savings as I have until I have to move back in with my mom and start over again. Unless I can figure out how to monetize at least one of my creative outlets. And if not, well, at least I can say I tried. So yeah. This is me. That's where I am right now. I guess stick around if you want to see what happens.